Hello, my name is Olole Godwin. Welcome back to Microeconomics. If this is the very first video you are seeing on this channel, you are advised or encouraged to subscribe to watch this video to the very end. If you like it, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button as well, and turn on notifications by clicking on the bell button. That notifies you when new classes are made available. And if you've been following Microeconomics YouTube channel before now, that's great. Guess what? We have a very good news for you today, which is the fact that econometrics classes are starting today in this video. But there's another announcement that I shall not be the only one that will be taking the classes. We have 2 or more tutors, and in fact, there should be a female face on this channel that will be taking us econometrics in times to come. So enjoy. I'll be introducing one of the tutors to you that will take you this. You think I will take this class? No, I'm not the one that will take this class. I will take another one. So I'll be introducing the tutor that will take this particular class. So welcome to Mr. Isaac Temida.
You're welcome to the class now. Wow, we shall be taking the introductory aspect of the class today, then further classes shall follow suit. So at the end of this class, you are expected to be able to explain the meaning of econometrics, the difference between econometrics and economic theory, mathematical economics, and statistics, and also to note the difference between variables and parameters, and the different types of variables we have. Also, we'll move to the data types, then finally we'll conclude at the goals of econometric research. Now we'll start with introduction and the meaning of econometrics. What does econometrics mean? There is always a confusion between econometrics and mathematical economics and statistics. Basically, that's the same thing. Being a very good statistician doesn't make you an econometrician, and also having different knowledge about economic theories and also mathematical economics doesn't make you good or doesn't make you sound alone in econometrics. So econometrics involves the integration of economics, mathematics, and statistics for the purpose of providing numerical values for the parameters of economic relationships and verifying economic theories. So you can always explain econometrics in this sense that it's like economic theory is a subset of econometrics. The same thing also with mathematical economics, the same thing also with statistics. So econometrics involves the combination of the triad. So economic theory basically focuses on, of course, economic theory simply refers to the verbal representation of economic concepts. That's economic theory. Mathematical economics simply refers to the mathematical representation of what economic theory gives. And statistics simply involves the use of data to ascertain results. Now, econometrics itself it focuses on combining economic theory with mathematical economics and statistics. So we use the data we get from here and some statistical principle, which also we formulate our model in a mathematical form given the knowledge of econometric theory, economic theory that we have. So that's basically what econometrics is about. While economic theory, mathematical economics, and statistics, while they focus on exact or deterministic relationship, exact relationship in the sense that when you take an economic theory, let's say the demand function. A demand function now gives demand function says there's an inverse relationship between the price of the good and the quantity demanded, all other things being equal. So that is being exact. The same thing also with mathematical economics. You arrive at at an exact figure given while you are holding some other variables constants. The same thing also with statistics. So you arrive at a specific figure. However, all other things are not always equal. It's very, very important to note that. Now, what about the other factors that affect the demand relationship, like governmental regulations, the income of consumers, apart from the price of that good, and also the prices of other goods and all that. So what econometrics does is that it provides a way to cater for all other variables. So we say econometrics focuses on variables that have stochastic or random or statistical components. That's it. Stochastic or random, they mean the same thing, or statistical components. Statistical components simply refers to variables that have probability distributions that are random in nature. So they are not exact. So their values can always differ. So that's what econometrics does. It gives us a bit of economic theory, a bit of mathematical economics with statistics, and you get the beauty of econometrics from the combination of the trial. You take an example of what we have here now. Quantity demanded is a function of the model here says quantity demanded of goods X is a function of the price of goods X, the price of goods Y, the income of consumer. This is an exact relationship now. This is an exact relationship. However, what about some other factors that affects the demand? Then the quantity demanded of goods X. Let's say governmental conditions, weather conditions, governmental regulations, weather conditions, and some other variables like that. So econometrics involve you taking every other variable mentioned, you taking them together, and you categorize them under this error term. So this usually refers to the error term. That's what econometrics does. So this is an econometrics relationship, not an exact relationship. It has a stochastic function, and this is where the U comes in. So you should note by now that econometrics goes beyond mathematical economics. It goes beyond you expressing your model in a mathematical form. It goes beyond you working with data. It also goes beyond mere economic theory. So it includes much more. It entails stochastic relationship. So you get that now. Then we move to the variables and parameters. You check here now the integration of economics, mathematics, and statistics for the purpose of providing numerical values for the parameters of economic relationship and verifying economic theories. What are parameters? I do the same thing as variables. We have economic variables, we have parameters. Variables are verbal expression of economic concepts. Verbal expression of concepts like quantity demanded, GDP, money supply, population growth, consumption, and all others. But parameters, they are coefficients. In mathematics, we call them coefficients, and they are like constant terms. So one of the differences between variables and parameters is that variables can always take different values. However, parameters, they are constant in nature. Variables can always take different values, while parameters are constant in nature. So parameters, they are like the coefficients of variables. Let's take a look again at this model up here. We have quantity demanded of goods X, that's a variable. So we have one variable here. Price of goods X, that's another variable. Price of goods Y, that's another variable. The income of consumers, that's another variable. So we have 4 different stated variables in this single model. We have 4 different variables. What about the parameters and the constants and terms we have there? The first one here is the beta naught here. We also have beta 1, that's 2, beta 2, that's 3, and beta 3, and that's 4. So in this single model, we have 4 different variables and 4 different parameters. 4 variables, 4 parameters. Now, variables are categorized into 2. We have the independent variables, also known as the regressors, explanatory variables, and we also have the dependent variables, also known as the regressand, and the explained variable. Dependent, independent. Dependent simply means this variable has its value based on all other variables in the model. That is, you cannot ascertain its value alone without working with all other variables. Let's take a look at this model we have here. In verbal form, I can always say this quantity demanded of goods X is a function of the price of goods X, the price of goods Y, the income of consumers, and all other variables. So here now, the price of the quantity demanded of goods X now, the unit of PD of the quantity demanded of goods X is depending on the price of goods X, the price of goods Y, and the income of consumers. So this is the dependent variable in this model. This is the dependent variable in that model. So its value is depending on the price of goods X, the price of goods Y, and the income of the consumers. So basically, that's what the dependent variable or the regression or the explained variable is all about. So this variable is being explained by all other variables in the model. So on the other hand, the independent variables in this model, we have the price of goods X, the price of goods, and the income of consumers. So their values are not determined by QDX. Their values are exogenous. They are not determined within this model. So they have fixed values not determined within this model. So they are independent of the value of the quantity divided of the X. So they are explaining QDX. That's why we call them explanatory variables or the regressors. So the independent variables simply also, and they are also known as the regressors or the explanatory variables. So in this model, we have 3 explanatory variables, all explaining just this quantity divided of X, which is our dependent variable. Okay, I hope that is clear now. The types of data that we have. We are now moving to being the work of a statistician now. The types of data that we have 3. The time series data, cross-sectional data, and panel. The time series data, cross-sectional data, and panel. Now, what the time series data is about is it gives the data for a single entity or a single economic variable across time period, across different period of time. Let me give an example now. The GDP of Nigeria from 1999 to 2021. The GDP of Nigeria from 1999 to 2021. So the GDP that's an economic variable across different time periods. So that's what the time series covers. Or let's say the population growth of Nigeria from 1960 to 2005. Population growth is single entity or a single variable across different time periods. So that's what the time series data, that's what it measures. Now the cross-sectional data on the other hand gives the data for different economic variables at a specific point in time. It gives the data for different economic variables at a specific point in time. Let's say we are considering Nigeria as an example now. The GDP, population growth, and the inflation rate in Nigeria in 2005. 3 different variables at a specific point in time. You get that now? Let's take an example of this model that we have here. If I should give a data that includes quantity divided of good X, the price of good X, the price of Y in 2005, that's simply a cross-sectional data. However, if I should say the quantity divided of good X from 1999 to 2005, that's simply a time series data. So you get the difference between the two. Now, panel. Panel simply involves the combination of the aforementioned. It simply refers to the combination of the time series data and the cross-sectional data. So which means it measures the data for different economic variables at different time period. The data for different economic variables, let's say GDP, money supply, population growth from 1999 to 2005. So it takes into account the characteristics of the time series data and also the characteristics of the cross-sectional data. So that's what the panel does. So don't forget, you have the time series data for a single entity data for a single entity at a different time period. That's the time series data. The cross-sectional data simply refers to data for different economic variables or different variables at a specific point in time. While panel refers to data for different variables across different time periods. Then we move to the goals of econometrics. The goals of econometrics. So it involves the integration of economics, mathematics, and statistics for the purpose of providing numerical values for the parameters of economic relationships. So it has a purpose. And we basically can categorize the goals of econometrics into 3. We have analysis, policy making, and forecasting. Analysis, policy making, and forecasting. Analysis. Now, when we are analyzing, econometrics focuses on explaining or verifying the explanatory power of economic theories. It focuses on verifying how true economic theories are. Let's take an example of the popular Malthusian theory of population. So that says there's an inverse relationship between economic growth and population growth. So which simply means as the population growth is increasing, the means of survival that leads to economic growth is decreasing. Now, econometrics, given the data and the time period it's working with, econometrics focuses on verifying that theory that, okay, given this situation, does this theory work? Given this situation, is this theory true? Is it valid? So, by applying some econometrics techniques, we check whether the theory is valid. So that's the goal of that's the basic points of analysis. So when you're making analysis, you are testing the explanatory powers of economic theories. Policy making, the second one. When you're making policy, you are recommending policies for maybe the government or maybe an organization that you are just asked to work for an organization. So a statistician might not be able to give you this, but an economist who has the knowledge of econometrics, after working out, doing the work of the statistician, will go much more to formulate policies. So, given the different values of the parameters you have in the model that you have ascertained in the model, then you can always formulate economic policies. The last one here, forecasting. When you are forecasting, you are making projections into the future, given the known values of the parameters in the model. Let's take an example of this consumption function. You have C equals beta naught plus beta 1 yd. Now, let's say we've estimated this model and we've estimated the parameters. So we have the value of beta naught as 50, the value of beta 1 as 0.75, these are MPC, 0.75, and we have the disposable income. We can always get the different values of the dependent variable C, given the fixed values of the independent variable, the regressor, this YD, disposable income. An example, if YD is 400 billion naira, what will consumption be? Of course, you can only slot that in a calculator and you get what C will be. Or if YD is 100 billion naira, what will C be? An example, you also take, okay, what if YD increases to 10,000 naira, or YD increases to 10 billion naira, what will C be, or how does it affect C? So given the known values of the parameters, you can always forecast, you make projections in the future, so you get different values of the dependent variable. So we've learned that econometrics involves the combination of the trial, mathematical economics, economic theory, and statistics. Econometrics involves the combination. We've learned that econometrics involves the combination of the trial, mathematical economics, economic theory, and statistics. And also we've learned the difference between variables and parameters. The different types of variables that we have: the independent, also known as the regressors, the explanatory variables, then the dependent, regressant, or explained variable. The types of data that we have: the time series data for an entity across different time periods, cross-sectional data for different variables at a specific point in time. For panel, the combination of the two. And the goals of econometrics analysis: you test the explanatory powers of economic variables. So that's what analysis is about. Then policy making, you make recommendations, you advise the government. You take an example of this model here. We have C equals 50 plus 0.75 YD. I've estimated beta naught and beta 1. We have something like this. Don't worry about this. You will learn how to estimate beta naught and beta 1 in further classes. So we have beta naught at 50, the MPC at 0.75. Now let's take an example that, okay, this economy that has this model is in a recession, and the government, what can the government do to save the economy? What can the government do to probably save the economy from that recession, from that economic recession? Now, this model has shown that there is a positive relationship between consumption and disposable income, meaning that if disposable income should increase, then we'll expect consumption to increase. Then how do you increase the people's disposable income? You reduce their taxes. Disposable income is personal income minus personal income taxes. So when you reduce the personal income taxes, then the disposable income increases. And when that increases, given our model, then C will also increase. So it depends on the rate at which this increases that we have an increase in C. So the basic point here is that when you are making policy, given the known values of the parameters, you can always give advice, you can always give recommendations given the data you've worked with. Then forecasting, you make projections into the future. That is, you can always get the different values for the consumption given fixed values on the disposable income. That is when YG is 400 billion, and like I've explained earlier, you can always get different values of C. So thank you for attending the class. If you have any questions, you leave them in the comment box, in the comment section, and please you don't forget to subscribe, and also you click the bell button for notification of other classes. So see you next class. Thank you.
Enjoyed the video you just saw, you can check out more of our videos. If you really enjoyed this video, make sure you click the subscribe button as well as the bell button to turn on notifications. Now, to make the learning experience easier and better, we've come up with a WhatsApp group that makes use of our YouTube channel, and that is to ensure that our classes become more interactive and students get more engaged. But we actually observe that students don't really finish their online courses due to boredom, because they are the only one and their computers or their phones. So because they don't have someone to interact with, to ask questions, to reply to them, to take tests and exams, they end up not finishing those courses, irrespective of whether they paid for the courses or not. And because of that, we've decided to come up with MOG School of Economics WhatsApp group that makes use of our YouTube channel. Now, these WhatsApp schools are divided into 3 based on the way economics is run in your school, in your respective schools. Now we have the School of Microeconomics, and we have the School of Macroeconomics as well as the School of Econometrics. Now, what we do there is to have regular brainstormings 3 to 4 times a week. We have monthly tests, which is basically monthly exams, because they're actually exams and you are going to enjoy them. So we have monthly exams. You are free to ask us questions whether on the topic that we are treating on the group currently or not, and so on and so forth. So all of these are going for just 2,000 naira on a monthly basis. I forgot to add something, that you can also win cash prizes on a monthly basis based on your exam performances. So if you are able to be among the top 3 students based on exam performance, you are going to win cash prize, and that means you can keep winning for as long as you remain among the top 3 students, among our top 3 students based on exam performance. So what you are going to do now is check the description of this video. You are going to find a WhatsApp link there. Click on the WhatsApp link for more. Thank you very much, and see you next time. All the best.